your how-to video for 5-point perspective. I'm actually going to include information about how you'd use 4-point perspective, but because 4 and 5 are very close together, I incorporate them into the same poster. Essentially, 4-point perspective and 5-point perspective assumes a curved edge that you are trying to make look realistic, like if something were to be reflected off of like a silver ball, for example. So you will notice I have the poster. It is all the way up high, so let me know if you need me to bring it down low. You still have on the left-hand side your how-to information if you need quick reminders from this video. And then you have your 4 applications: basic boxes, the actual name, or if you wanted to use it in a architectural setting. Those are all just examples to practice and learn this skill from, and then your job is to make sure that you apply this learning into the art concept you have already created. Okay, let's go ahead and transition to the tutorial. While I am taking this moment to not fall off the table, it's a good idea to remind you that people who are doing 5-point or 4-point perspective are really competent and good at 1-point, 2-point, 3-point, and understand the concepts of 0-point perspective. Okay, so now that we're on to our paper, the first thing you are going to need to find is something that lets you make a circle. So we have these things around the room you have to hunt for them. You can pick any dot on here. We'll go with a bigger circle. I hold the center, and then I just twist around as it goes. Sometimes it takes a friend to help. Once I have drawn my circle, I now need to go ahead and create my dots. So going through the center of the circle, you are going to make Sue and Bob. So this is still Sue, this is still Bob. You still have from that first, or from 3-point perspective going through the center again, I am still going to have Wilbert, and now I'm going to add to them, I can't remember what I call them, Isabel or Betty or something, I can't remember. So I have Wilbert, and we'll call her Pat. Sorry, I can't remember who that is. And you will notice they are about the same distance away. Then I have to create arching lines. To create arching lines, it's important to remember that your wrist acts as a pivot as well as your elbow. As long as you anchor that, it will actually draw, okay, doing a natty thing and drawing on the table. It will draw an arch that is constant, and a series of arches will make a circle. So I have to arc up, and then I have to go here and arc up. And then once I've done 2 arcs, I can kind of start to take my paper and my pencil and connect them. You'll notice I'm drawing a bunch of lines. Now I have to make an arch here, but it's going to be a shorter arch in the center. Now I'm only going to make 2, but you can make, the more of these you make, the more detailed your perspective. Twist my paper because it's easier to make arches always working off of that same pivot. So again, I arch from one direction, I arch from the other direction, and then once I have 2 arches, I can start to use my hand and connect them. Now I've got to do a smaller arch here in the center. Once I have arced from Wilbert to Pam, I now have to do the same thing from Bob to Sue. So arch, arch, and then connect them. Now I make this look easier than you might find it, and that's okay. We have light boxes in our classroom for a reason. So once you're done with this, you can always go to the light box and retrace your lines so that you have a nice, clean paper. Okay, once I have all of my grid drawn, I am now ready to actually start using that grid. So you can do everything from the basics of drawing an actual building or a box using this knowledge keeping everything as a curved line, or you can turn it into a 5-point perspective idea by putting a dot in the center. So essentially on the outside curves of the structure, you're always using these vanishing points, and it is just like 2-point perspective or 3-point perspective. The only trick is everything is a curve, not a straight line. But here, let's do another guy right over here. Five-point perspective means that it transitions to 1 point inside of the circle. Sorry, my phone's making noise. So this is where I could get my ruler out, and if I envision this as a cutout, I could say that this point now connects in the center, and that is like a chasm going into the center of the circle. It's kind of like combining universes, right? So I can do it here as well. And then keep in mind, everything inside these spaces would have to be straight lines. So if I was going to end that, it would be a straight line, not a curved line. If I wanted to continue to use the idea of 1-point perspective, I would have to make sure that I am making right angles to my spaces. But essentially, do you see how I've started to create, this is like the ball, the outside ball, and you go into that space, and now there's like a whole universe inside there, where this is like a hallway, and then this is the corner, right? And here's another corner, and it's fun because it plays with what we know can't be true. Like the outside of this ball should end right here, but by drawing that line, it implies that it's like a whole nother space, a whole nother place. The trick to 5-point perspective is to make sure that once you enter that chasm, you are always, always following the properties of 1-point perspective, and it's like you're completely ignoring this outside curved shell. I encourage you to play a lot and often with this idea of 4-point and 5-point perspective. It takes most people 3 or 4 tries or plays or experiments before they become comfortable with this. I realize it should go all the way with this concept.